Imagine that you are an AWPer in CSGO, and you just want to practice your flicks. Counter-Strike can already be pretty dark and gloomy, so imagine doing the same thing while colorblind. Your opponents kind of blend into the background, and there's a good chance you just might not see them well enough to react in time. Well, over the past decade, those dealing with colorblindness have actually found ways to bolster their visibility in-game. Whether it's through the control panel of their graphics card or settings built into the game itself, players have found ways to unlock their true potential. But in their quest to unearth the best adjustments vis-a-vis visibility, esports competitors have stumbled upon certain tweaks that can help nearly everybody. But how exactly did these colorblind settings become pro settings? And should we all really be using them? Alright, so over the years, gaming has been pretty tough if you're colorblind, which, for those who don't know, refers to those whose photoreceptors are either partially or fully incapable of sensing certain chromatic colors. According to the Colorblind Awareness Organization, 1 in 12 men and 1 in 200 women experience some form of colorblindness or color deficiency. See? In spite of what all these Rogan-worshipping rubes would have you believe, men are the inferior sex. And as animation becomes more and more realistic, some people now face the same challenges in-game that they do outside of the server.
I mean, it was in elementary school when I figured it out. I thought I was just like slow at learning at colors, and my mom was like, maybe you're colorblind. So she like brought me in to take a test, colorblind test, with, I don't know, a doctor or something, and they're like, yep, you're colorblind.
Now look, let's take a quick step back before you get too carried away. Eyes are complicated, and while I may not be an ophthalmologist, come on. You thought Dimitri was going to explain the specifics on this one? Your eyes perform some critical tasks while you're gaming that happen mostly automatically. Things like spotting and tracking targets, and also grabbing other pieces of information as quickly as possible to help you make decisions. They're the all-important second half of the hand-eye coordination duo. So if your eyes don't spot the target, your mouse isn't going to get there either. Color vision, to oversimplify, relies on different photoreceptors in your eyes that can receive different wavelengths of light, or colors, and pass that information on to your brain. When it comes to colorblind gamers, there can be some major problems spotting and tracking targets when the colors of the thing they're tracking and the environment around it match with those weak or malfunctioning photoreceptors in their eyes. Now, Dimitri, I know you've got plenty more to break down, talking about pros and settings and all that, but hey, now you've got a new excuse when you totally whiff that op shot in your face-it match. Just blame it on the colors, buddy.
Hey, you shouldn't joke about whiffing sins, okay? It is a serious disease that affects literally dozens of scrubs daily. Don't believe me? Just ask Flom, whose acute, incurable affliction resulted in him becoming the official spokesperson of the yet-to-be-established American Whiffing Sins Association. Call 1-800-YOU-SUCK and donate today. Sometimes, all it takes to make a difference is 5 gifted. Anyway, Cloud9's former AD carry, Sneaky, has been playing League of Legends since it first came out. And in 2017, he told Blitz that, like many other players, he experienced his fair share of color-related issues.
I know Tom Kench, right when he came out, it was a pretty massive problem. I think they had an immediate fix right before he played. You know, he has gray health. It was, I don't remember what the color was, but it just looked like he was full health 24/7. So like he could literally be 1 HP, and it's like, is this guy gonna die sometime?
Now, for colorblind players, the early days of League of Legends were pretty fucking rough. Red-green colorblind players could barely even tell the difference between their opponent's creeps and their own. They're called minions? What? Why do League players call last hits CS then? God, it's like this game wants to piss me off. Riot's solution was a one-size-fits-all colorblind mode which combats both deuteranopia and protanopia. Those suffering from deuteranopia have trouble seeing green cone pigments, while those with protanopia struggle with red cone pigments. This mode turns most of the red and green in the game into blue and yellow, allowing players to differentiate between all of the abilities more easily. But what Riot didn't expect was for non-colorblind players to start adopting the same settings.
If you watch a lot of pro players' streams, then you might have noticed that some of their HP bars are yellow rather than green. This is because they use a setting called colorblind mode, which was originally meant for people who have trouble seeing specific colors or who can't see colors at all. Now, by turning this on, the abilities will look much more distinguishable and they'll actually be easier to see.
You see, these colorblind changes also offered a slight competitive advantage to visibility at a high level. So all players started adopting them. Since implementing colorblind mode back in 2012, pretty much everyone who actually cares about the game has turned on this setting, competitive players in particular. Because even if you aren't colorblind, sometimes it can be hard to tell what health bar belongs to what champion, especially in a hectic teamfight. But MOBAs aren't the only genre of game in which players have been innovating new ways to improve visibility. And I sure as shit didn't come here to talk about League of Legends all day. So let's get to the good stuff. FPS games. Where even before colorblind modes existed, players were using something called digital vibrance to really make the colors in their game pop. You might not know this, but TenZ, the former NACS prodigy, also had to find a way to overcome his colorblindness before becoming a world champion in Valorant.
I noticed I was colorblind. I don't remember what grade it was. It was either like kindergarten or grade 1, but it was like a 6 slideshow thing where you have to draw like a comic strip and it's like a scene that changes. So I drew like I think I drew like a spider on a spider web, like crawling up a web, and then for half of the sun I drew yellow, and then for the other half of the suns I drew green. And then I think the teacher talked to my mom, and then I went to like the eye doctor, and they did like the numbers test on me. I couldn't see anything.
Now, TenZ's colorblindness never stopped him from destroying everyone in FPL back in the day, but when Valve added new player models to the game in November of 2019, he had a bit of a rough go.
That's the thing that kind of screwed me over the most, because everything blends into me. Like, I'm really, really bad with shades, so I couldn't see like anything. Like, dude, you're playing like a bonus game, like when you're playing Counter-Strike with the player models, because people can just blend into the environment. Like, there's dudes like sitting, like crouching down, and they'll blend into like a shrub, and I can't see it.
But, as I'm sure many of you are aware, finding creative ways to improve your visibility in-game has a long history in Counter-Strike. Counter-Strike has never been a bright and colorful game. But once people decided to alter their video settings by cranking their digital vibrance up all the way, some players discovered that the extra contrast and saturation actually made it easier to see enemies.
I have my digital vibrance set to 100. A lot of pros use it at 100. So, in my opinion, the game just looks better. I mean, honestly, you don't want to play with a great game, really. So anything at least higher than 60, in my opinion, is pretty good for your eyes.
The reason for this is that vibrance isn't just saturation. It doesn't brighten all colors, only the muted ones. This means that on certain maps, like Mirage or Inferno, it yellows your surroundings without touching the CT's dark SAS player models, making them even easier to see. Personally, I have my digital vibrance set to 80, sometimes 85, since I find anything 90 or above to just be way too much. That said, even those who start below the max tend to make their way there eventually.
Right,
digital vibrance is 75.
Like, it's still obviously a huge dick move, but like,
I don't know why I picked
The thing is
75,
that
but
the layers of
I decided not to max it out.
So after watching competitors muck around with colorblind modes and digital vibrance to the point that they became synonymous with certain esports, Riot decided to integrate a series of first-party options into Valorant when the beta released in April of last year. What's key here is that Riot built Valorant with esports in mind. So, in addition to being an obvious accessibility feature, things like colorblind modes, player outlines, and the general brightness of the game made Valorant an aimer's paradise. So when CS competitors started jumping ship to the new game, they already had solutions to all their color issues. Not that they needed them. Again, say what you will about Valorant, it's super easy to see things. Riot nailed visibility to the point that Counter-Strike started copying it. Each of Valorant's colorblind modes combats a different color deficiency. But the important thing to note is that the outlines created by these modes are just easier to see for everyone.
I definitely think the yellow outline helps me a lot more than like the red. The red didn't stand out to me at all. And I noticed that when I was playing the beta. I just sucked when I couldn't see the red that well. So I switched to yellow and everything changed.
Whether you're colorblind or not, seeing your enemy in a purple or bright yellow outline helps them stand out way more against the game's already colorful environments. And if you tune in to watch just about any top Valorant pro or streamer, you'll notice that they're using some combination of digital vibrance and colorblind settings. It's no mystery that these are now the agreed upon standard pro settings in Valorant. Even at the game's first international Iceland thingy, we watched players from around the globe compete with ridiculously oversaturated video settings. Now, although certain game developers do offer colorblind modes to aid those who suffer from color blindness or color deficiencies, the fight isn't over. Competitive titles like Rainbow Six Siege still don't have any colorblind options, in spite of the fact that fans have been begging for them for years. I swear, dude, if Ubisoft would just add some form of Valorant-esque player outline to Siege, I would never complain about anything ever again. Okay, I mean, that's not true, but I'd be very, very happy.
Colorblind mode? I mean, Jonas, my old teammate, was colorblind. He literally couldn't see claymores. And the funny thing is, I have another example for you guys. Jonas runs up, he doesn't see the claymore. Like, he actually doesn't see the claymore, and he doesn't kill it. What happens is that Fabian wants to help Jonas. Fabian died to the claymore because Jonas didn't call it out. And Fabian asked Jonas, did you realize there's a claim on the main stage? He says, no, I'm colorblind.
Riot seems to be the most accommodating of the major esports developers, but there are still organizations out there, like Can I Play That, who are willing to speak on your behalf to ensure that everyone gets to play the games they love. Their accessibility reference guides are available for game devs so they can better understand the challenges that some gamers face each and every day. Some of their suggestions include using sound, shapes, and animations to display information rather than different colors. And games like Valorant are a prime example of developers finally listening to this feedback. But whether you're colorblind or not, this is a fight that you should be invested in. Because there's no denying that thanks to the labors of the few, we've been blessed with some settings that make everything a little bit clearer for, well, everyone. Anyway, Cloud9's former AD carry, I'm sorry, Arms of an Angel just started playing in my head. Right as soon as I finished it and I lost it. Oh, shit. I'll just take my freshly squeezed orange juice and I'll be in my trailer. That's where you'll find me.